So new calls for Democrats to tamp down on the dangerous rhetoric that incites violence against Republicans and ICE. Democratic Senator John Fetterman is pleading with his party to cool things down, posted on X, quote, "Unchecked extreme rhetoric like labels as Hitler and fascist will foment more extreme outcomes. Political violence is always wrong, no exceptions. We must all turn the temperature down." But he's not ready to leave his party. Watch.
No, I'm not going to switch, but I'm just going to be an independent voice in the Democratic Party. I'm not going to be afraid if people, and if there are groups attacking a Democrat, the last one in Pennsylvania, then to me, that's part of the problem, in our party. And if you want a Democrat that's going to call people Nazis or fascists or all these kinds of things, well, I'm not going to be that guy. Independent thinking and views.
But is that advice falling on deaf ears? Days after a deadly ICE facility shooting in my home city of Dallas, Democrat Seth Moulton was on CNN comparing agents to the Gestapo.
How are we going to handle immigration? We all hate what Trump is doing with ICE and these masked people running around like the Gestapo. But what is Democrats' immigration policy?
So, Dana, I think big changes for the Democratic Party is just too much. Just incremental. Don't assault conservatives on college campuses. Don't go after ICE. Just small little things.
Just a little bit like decency. I think one of the things happening here is a lot of politics. Okay, so Seth Moulton, who you just saw, he is considering challenging Ed Markey in a primary to run for Senate in Massachusetts. It makes sense, right? Ed Markey, do you know that his office was across our office when I worked on Capitol Hill in 1995? Okay, so that's been a long time, and maybe it's time for a new generation to come up. Seth Moulton would be one of those people. He's a veteran. That would make a lot of sense. So I can see that. I also think that Fetterman is poised to become the Joe Manchin 2.0. So let's just say that the Democrats, don't get mad. Let's just say the Democrats were to flip one of the Senate next year, right? And now you have the Democrats in charge. Like he could be the Manchin guy. Or let's say even if they don't, he's like the only one who could actually cut deals with Republicans. So he's sitting in the catbird seat. He's not gloating about it or anything, but if I were John Fetterman, I wouldn't change parties either.
Jessica, is the base driving this? Is this why there can't be moderation right now? Is because the base wants fighters?
Well, the base wants fighters, but the base doesn't want people to die. Those are very separate issues. And the conversation that Fetterman was having with Maria and something that he posted on Twitter, which the Deputy White House Press Secretary did as well, was this chart that Axios published about this rise in left-wing violence. And the right was gleefully tweeting it, ignoring the fact that the right-wing violence was much larger than the left-wing violence, which is the truth about it. And you can go anywhere you want for these statistics. You can go to Cato, you can go to the Government Accountability Office, you can go to the Center for, Strategic and International Studies to see that. And in the wake of the absolutely tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk, the right, led by Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, wants to make it out as if the left are the only ones who have ever used the word fascist. And you can see a compilation of Stephen Miller saying it. It's passing all over Twitter. You have Donald Trump on tape. You have analyses of how many times that he's referred to Democrats and journalists as evil just in the first 6 months of his administration. And, I think that we should have led this conversation with the tragedies of this weekend. We had more mass shootings, which is just the daily occurrence in American life. And Kash Patel, J.D. Vance, and Donald Trump, Caroline Levin as well, out there with a very different narrative than I would think that they would have, but because it doesn't add up for them. The guy who drove up to the Mormon church, set the place on fire, killed 5 people, shooting them, was a Trump supporter. He had a Trump Vance flag in his backyard, which some on the right are trying to say that it said stop Trump. Doesn't make any sense. And if a leftist or someone had killed someone and had a Dark Brandon flag or a Biden-Harris flag, you don't think that Kash Patel, that would have been the first thing that he would have said?
Yeah, because the right is going everywhere saying, go after the Mormon people. There's a difference. There's a difference when there's one person, a one-off, and people that are going on the day-to-day basis.
It's not a one-off. Go back to the Axios chart, and you can see how much of Not one off. It is. The hypocrisy is astounding. If you want to have a message of tolerance and let's get these people the mental help they need, because he needed mental help, so did the guy in North Carolina who killed 3 people at that waterfront bar, a veteran, people who we ignore and don't treat. People said warning signs for decades that had been ignored. Make that your message no matter who's killing people. But when the shoe is on the other foot and you can't demonize the left for this one, they say nothing. Nothing. Oh, it was just about anti-Christian bias. It was a Christian, by the way, killing other Christians.
Jesse, is this the right being hypocritical here?
Well, we're not inciting people to go kill Mormons. Like you're inciting people to attack ICE, like you're inciting people to attack Republicans. That doesn't happen. And if you look in the inner cities, Democrats are slaughtering each other day after day after day, and you don't say anything about that. You ask this question, well, does the base want people to die? Yeah. Did you see the poll where it was like 20% of Democrats said they believed in political assassinations? Did you watch the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk killing? I mean, everybody was clapping on campus. Yeah, he deserved it, Jessica. Now, if I had won a swing state Senate race after having a stroke against Moneybags, celebrity Republican, I think people should listen to me. This guy is like a symbol for the working class. He even has the hoodie, and you'd think the Democrats would listen to him. They don't listen to him. They listen to crazy liberal ladies in the cities. And I do feel conflicted, though, because, Jessica, when people say, oh, there's this guy and these ICE people are so crazy, I get mad because it's a lie. But then when she says these ICE people are abducting and kidnapping innocent hairdressers and sending them to dungeons to be tortured, I think, well, that's scaring a lot of illegals to go home themselves. So the next time Jessica brings up all these scare stories about all of these illegals getting rounded up indiscriminately, innocent people being sent overseas, I'm just going to say I agree. Because 2 million illegals have seen these scare tactics that Jessica likes to talk about, and they have left by themselves. And that is actually working on Donald Trump's immigration policy's behalf.
So, Emily, there was just an assassination on the college campus. They're still terrorizing conservatives on college campuses. There was just an attempted assassination on ICE officers. They're still targeting ICE, getting in their faces. They're even calling the Border Patrol racist, which is 50% Hispanic. So they keep saying both sides turn down the temperature, but there hasn't even been a little adjustment.
And you can't denounce right-wing violence while excusing or supporting, like in that poll, left-wing terrorism and comparing ICE agents to Gestapo and Nazis, especially from the mouth of a veteran like Moulton. Shame on him for that. It is not moral clarity, even though I know the left likes to be elitely better than all of us in an intellectual and moral way. It is just moral malpractice. And it's breeding that kind of chaos that all of this is stemming from. So when you see someone like Senator Fetterman and people sort of being like, well, this must make him a Republican. When did common sense make you have to switch parties from that? Why? You can always switch from a complete delusion and incendiary fomenting point of view to common sense and stay within whatever title you want to have in your party. So I think it makes him this rare Democrat that he is willing to admit that cheap insults get you nowhere, but also that rhetoric matters. And I'm not quite sure why the rest of the leadership in the Democrat Party can't sit down and stand shoulder to shoulder just one time and say, turn it down. And I must say, unequivocally, the president and Caroline Leavitt and the FBI director came out and unequivocally condemned that violence, that shooting of the Mormon church. They called it for what it is. Immediately, we have heard more from this administration
about that guy's politics than Tyler Robinson's or the kid who shot the detainee at ICE. And they certainly didn't say, I heard he had a Trump flag. I disown him. I disavow that. That's not what we're about.
They left a note, and they also inscribed the casings of the bullet.
They didn't
you don't have to
vote
speculate
for
about
the
something
left
because they told you exactly what their motive was. You're bringing stuff out here that
online
the FBI hasn't even brought
nihilistic
up.
kids. And when I brought that up, I got poo-pooed. Well, who cares? Who cares? Because he's with a trans person, that means he's one of yours.
But may I
that's
say-
what I was met with when
This
I
is what I'm
tried
trying
to
to
say,
say.
get people mental health help and take away the guns, for God's sake.
To this administration, the whole point is the politics don't matter. That we actually see a life equaling a life equaling a life. It is the left that seems to think politics matters whether a life is worthwhile or not, and that is the difference.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.